KJA Global Channel. The Political System in Me. Series 4, The Political System Across Every Sector of Society. Episode 42, Labor and Workers, Wages, Safety, Unions, and Dignity. A nation is not built only by leaders. A nation is built by hands. By the hands that carry bricks, harvest rice, sew clothes, clean streets, drive buses, repair machines, type documents, care for children and older people, cook, weld, dig, lift, and deliver. The worker is not a statistic. The worker is the nation's daily body. And the political system decides what that body must endure. I once thought labor rights were only economic matters. But labor is political. Labor is where power meets necessity. A person who must feed a family can be forced into silence. A person who fears losing work can be threatened into obedience. A person who cannot organize with others is easier to control. This is where our question begins. Can a person work, live, organize, and speak with dignity without fear, humiliation, injury, or retaliation? The system reveal is worker power, safety, and collective rights. Work and human dignity are a hidden foundation of political stability. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is worker power, safety, and collective rights. Wages are the politics of survival. Workplace safety is the right to return home alive. Unions turn workers into citizens with collective voice. And informal and migrant workers must not be left outside protection. This episode is about wages, safety, unions, and dignity. Because the moral value of a nation is revealed in how it treats those who carry its weight. If workers live in fear, the nation is not fully free. If workers are treated as disposable, society becomes fragile. Humiliation accumulates. Exploitation accumulates. Injury accumulates. Anger accumulates. Fair wages begin with a basic question. Can a worker meet essential needs through lawful work? A wage is not only a number. It represents food, shelter, transport, health, education, care, and the possibility of planning a future. Wage systems must be transparent. Workers should know the rate, hours, deductions, overtime, benefits, payment date, and lawful complaint route. Hidden deductions, unpaid overtime, delayed wages, and payment below the legal standard are not minor administrative errors. They transfer survival risk from employers and institutions onto workers and families. Minimum wage policy must consider both dignity and economic reality. It should use evidence about living costs, productivity, employment, regional conditions, and the needs of vulnerable workers. But minimum standards must remain genuine rights. Federalism cannot create cheap regions where basic protection disappears. Different regions may face different costs and industries. Yet every worker should remain protected by enforceable national or constitutional floors of dignity. Workplace safety is the right to return home alive and whole. A worker must not risk death merely to earn bread. Safety requires hazard assessment, training, protective equipment, safe machinery, emergency plans, medical support, and accurate incident records. It also requires the right to report danger without retaliation. A safety rule that exists only on a wall is not protection. Protection exists when dangerous work can be stopped, inspections are credible, injuries are recorded, and negligence has consequences. Employers carry duties. Workers also carry duties to follow safe procedures, use equipment properly, report hazards honestly, and protect one another. But responsibility must reflect power. A worker cannot be blamed for a system that withholds training, equipment, information, or a safe alternative. Freedom of association allows workers to form and join organizations of their choosing. Collective bargaining allows them to negotiate over wages, hours, safety, benefits, and working conditions. Unions are not merely economic organizations. They are civic institutions. They teach participation, representation, negotiation, compromise, accountability, and collective responsibility. That is why dictatorships often attack unions and worker voice. Not because wages alone threaten the regime, but because organized workers become organized citizens. Collective power threatens authoritarian control. Democratic unionism must also be accountable. Leadership should be selected fairly. Finances should be transparent. Members should be able to question decisions. And union power should not become another form of intimidation. The right to organize is meaningless without non-retaliation. Workers must not be dismissed, transferred, threatened, blacklisted, or denied promotion for lawful association or complaint. Retaliation often hides behind another reason. Sudden poor performance reports. Unexplained transfers. Selective discipline. Or contracts that are simply not renewed. That is why records, timelines, comparisons, and independent review matter. Informal workers require protection too. Street vendors, domestic workers, day laborers, agricultural workers, home-based workers, and gig workers may fall outside ordinary systems. Legal invisibility does not remove risk. It removes remedy. Migrant workers may face language barriers, confiscated documents, recruitment debt, unsafe housing, movement restrictions, and fear of reporting abuse. Protection must follow the human being, not only the formal employment category. Non-discrimination is another foundation of labor dignity. Workers should not lose opportunity because of gender, ethnicity, religion, disability, age, language, region, migration status, or political opinion. Equal opportunity does not mean ignoring unequal barriers. It means identifying and removing those barriers through fair recruitment, accessible workplaces, equal pay, reasonable accommodation, and protection from harassment. Labor inspection turns written standards into real protection. Inspectors need lawful authority, competence, independence, safe access, reliable records, and protection from corruption. Inspections should focus on risk and evidence. They should not become tools for extortion, political punishment, or selective harassment. Workers need accessible complaint routes. A complaint should not require wealth, dangerous travel, advanced legal knowledge, or public exposure. Remedies may include unpaid wages, reinstatement, compensation, safety correction, medical support, collective bargaining orders, disciplinary action, or policy reform. Delay can destroy a remedy. A worker who waits years for unpaid wages may already have lost housing, health, education, and family stability. To understand labor and workers, follow the rights chain. Right or legitimate interest, law or constitutional rule, responsible institution, complaint or review, hearing and evidence, remedy, enforcement. Right or legitimate interest asks what human claim is at stake. Fair wages, safe work, association, collective voice, equality, dignity, or freedom from retaliation. Law or constitutional rule asks where the standard, duty, limit, and protection are defined. Responsible institution asks which employer, ministry, labor office, inspectorate, tribunal, court, union, or local authority must act. Complaint or review asks where a worker can report wage theft, unsafe conditions, discrimination, retaliation, or unlawful dismissal. Hearing and evidence ask what records exist, who listens, whether representation is available, and whether the worker can participate safely. Remedy asks what can repair the harm. Payment, reinstatement, compensation, safety correction, recognition, protection, or policy change. Enforcement asks who makes the remedy real and what happens if the responsible party refuses. A broken outcome may begin far upstream. The visible harm may be an injury, unpaid wage, unlawful dismissal, discrimination, or a silenced union. But the deeper failure may be an unjust rule, weak inspection, missing records, political interference, captured oversight, fear of retaliation, or a remedy that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing labor failure to one supervisor or one company. It identifies where law, capacity, evidence, representation, oversight, remedy, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is worker power, safety, and collective rights. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, labor is shaped primarily by concentrated command. Information is restricted, institutions answer upward, unions may be controlled or banned, strikes criminalized, and challenge may carry personal risk. In a fragile democracy, formal rights may exist while corruption, weak inspection, employer retaliation, unequal capacity, politicized unions, or poor enforcement makes protection inconsistent. Standards may exist on paper while informal workers remain invisible. Complaints may be filed but never enforced. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and labor ministries, courts, inspectorates, unions, employers, legislatures, media, and civil society contest workplace power. No democratic design is self-executing. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether workers participate, and whether inspection and remedy exist in practice. Protection becomes durable only when labor dignity is converted into rules, responsibilities, records, and remedies. The minimum guardrails are 1. Fair and enforceable labor standards. Wages, hours, overtime, leave, contracts, dismissal, and social protection should be stated clearly, recorded accurately, and applied consistently. 2. Safe and healthy workplaces. Employers and institutions must assess hazards, train workers, provide equipment, record incidents, correct danger, and protect those who report risk. 3. Freedom of association and collective voice. Workers must be able to organize, select representatives, bargain collectively, and participate without coercion or retaliation. 4. Non-discrimination and equal opportunity. Recruitment, pay, promotion, training, discipline, and dismissal should follow fair criteria, with protection from harassment and exclusion. 5. Labor inspection and remedy. Inspectors, tribunals, courts, and complaint bodies need independence, records, authority, and practical remedies that can be enforced promptly. These safeguards work as a system. Wage rules without records can hide theft. Safety standards without inspection remain paper. Unions without non-retaliation remain vulnerable. Complaints without confidentiality can expose workers. And remedy without enforcement does not repair harm. Global relevance. Across political labels, ask who sets labor standards, who carries risk, who can organize, what records exist, and whether correction is real. Myanmar relevance. Use ordinary lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Do not treat one authority, employer, union, industry, community, or proposed arrangement as the whole country. Separate existing institutions from interim systems, local practices, political commitments, commercial arrangements, and aspirational federal designs. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. Ask whether workers near you can organize without fear and what changes when they cannot. Notice wages, hours, safety, voice, and retaliation risks. Verify. Examine labor law, wage and safety standards, organizing rights, collective bargaining rules, inspection powers, complaint procedures, and remedy pathways. ACT. Review one anonymized workplace issue against wage, safety, association, equality, remedy, and retaliation protections. Record what evidence should exist and which institution carries responsibility. Protect worker identities and do not convert the exercise into a public accusation. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, the evidence, the safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. Protect victims, witnesses, families, confidential records, and digital security before taking any outward step. Labor rights are not special privileges. They are foundations of stable democracy. The worker is the nation's daily truth. Can a person work, live, and speak with dignity without fear, humiliation, or being crushed by power? If yes, the nation is moving toward justice. If not, then even where elections exist, freedom remains incomplete. Because the nation's body is still chained. The principle to carry forward is this: work and human dignity are a hidden foundation of political stability. Ask yourself, what part of labor dignity and worker protection have I treated as normal even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? The political system is not distant. It is present wherever power enters the working life of a human being. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe. Learn. Participate. Shape the future. KJA Knowledge justifies authority.